Mr. Sheriff, pray, give us order.
The meeting will now come to order.
Just yesterday in the Jewish lectionary of weekly Torah study, we read from the book of Numbers about a candelabrum that contains 7 lights. The 7 lights were lit as a reminder of the divine presence in the tabernacle that accompanied the Israelites in the desert and later in the temple in Jerusalem. The text is of interest because rather than directing Moses and Aaron to light the lights, it tells us, bring up 7 lights. To raise up lights or bring lights forward sounds to me entirely like an introduction to a ceremony of commencement. So I appreciate the author. Why multiple lights in proximity to one another? Why not one big old light that would burn gloriously to indicate the presence of the divine? The rabbis taught these 7 lights remind us of the variety of people who made up the Israelite nation. That is, our meaning as a people rests on its diversity. Perhaps the rabbis attended acclaiming William's Day because as I look out at this great assembly today of students and families, I know that we are an amazing community because we bring so many backgrounds and homelands and languages and faiths to the assembly that is Williams College. This moment is illuminated by many lights. The rabbis encouraged us to think about 7 lights representing different values that stand side by side, whose light emanates in different ways: loving kindness, mercy, peace, justice, righteousness, piety. That's 6. What's the 7th? It was the 7th light that lit the other 6. I think the 7th light is courage. You know about courage. Courage is taking a chance to apply to a school with an outsized reputation, and when you're admitted, saying, okay, I'll try this. I bet I can do it. Courage is taking a course out of your comfort zone. Courage is sharing your spiritual beliefs or your family's history or your fears at being far from home in those first days with new entry mates. Courage is speaking out for your strong beliefs when you see that which some take for granted is hurtful to others in language or bad humor or even hurtful public policies. Each of these lights is kindled by such courage to do justice, to live with piety, to offer mercy, to work for peace, to stand for doing the right thing, and maybe calling for the most courage to give complete love to another human being. Raising light is an act of courage. As we celebrate the journey of these Williams years, may you lift up your light and move it forward. Know that your light is even stronger when lined up with the lights of others. On this bright and glorious day, May we lift our lights with imagination and hope, with faith and courage. Lift your lights high. Bring your lights forward. Shine your lights. Amen.
So please be seated. The clouds can stay just about like that. It'll be great. So on behalf of the college, I'd like to open these ceremonies by extending a warm welcome to all of you, students, families, friends, and distinguished guests. We are delighted to see you here and grateful that you have gathered from far and near for this wonderful day. I'd like to offer special thanks to Sheriff Bowler for his special kickoff to the ceremony. With this, the college's 225th commencement, we continue the tradition of flying the flags of each of the 45 countries represented by this year's graduates, colorful and inspiring symbols of the world from which our students have gathered. One of the nicest aspects of the weekend is being able to watch our graduates share moments with faculty and staff who have done so much to make their Williams experience productive and rewarding. And I ask, therefore, that we recognize all members of the Williams faculty and staff with our applause. Not a single graduate would be here today without the support and encouragement of many people. So I ask that we similarly recognize all of our students' parents, other family members, and friends who are with us here today. Four guests we are particularly pleased to welcome this weekend are the recipients of the Olmsted Prize for Excellence in Secondary School Teaching, honored yesterday at Ivy Exercises. We ask our recipients to please stand and ask the audience to hold applause until all names are announced. Sarah Barber Just of Amherst, Massachusetts. Seth Hirsch of Suwanee, Georgia. Brian McDonald of Durham, North Carolina. And Robert Schertz of Gates Mills, Ohio, who had to catch an early flight home in order to get back for his school's graduation ceremony. So most prizes and fellowships awarded to members of the senior class were announced by Dean Bolton yesterday at Ivy Exercises. A list of the recipients, as well as lists of seniors receiving various categories of honors, can be found at the back of the commencement program. And please join me in congratulating them on their wonderful achievements. The William Bradford Turner Citizenship Prize was established in the memory of Mr. Turner of the class of 1914, who was killed in action in France in 1916. The prize is awarded to that member of the graduating class who, in the judgment of the faculty, fellow seniors, the dean of the college, and the president, has rendered the most exemplary service to the college and to fellow students. This year's recipient has focused his prodigious energies on strengthening our community, both by supporting individuals in their academic and personal lives, and by convening and leading crucial larger conversations. His grace in these conversations, telling hard truths while also listening deeply and insisting that we hold within us the capacity to be an even stronger community, has made him a trusted leader, particularly in difficult times. As a deeply respected peer, junior advisor, tutor, and teaching assistant, co-chair of the Health Society and the Black Student Union, this biology major and Africana Studies concentrator is truly an outstanding Williams citizen. I now have the pleasure of calling on stage this year's winner of the William Bradford Turner Citizenship Prize, Tredez Colbert. Since 1795, seniors have spoken from the commencement stage. Indeed, in early years, all seniors spoke. The present wise practice of limiting the student speakers to 3 members of the class began in 1901. I know you're relieved. 1 speaker is chosen by the class, 1 is selected by the Phi Beta Kappa Society, and the last speaker is our valedictorian. It is my pleasure to introduce our class speaker, Julia Juster.
I have 3 minutes. Unless, of course, I go rogue, chain myself to the podium, feed the key to a squirrel, and refuse to leave. We'll see. I want to be very clear about what I will and won't do with the 3 minutes I have today. I'm going to stand here as the 2nd woman in the history of Williams College to be elected class speaker. Okay, thank you. Honored and so grateful to my classmates who voted for me. I know they're expecting some jokes, so I'm going to make a few of those. I'm going to wave to my mom and dad. Hey. Okay. And I'm going to speak my truth, the truth of a 22-year-old, exhilarated, exhausted, and very soon-to-be college graduate. This truth, this individualized expression of my past, present, and future will be mine, and I will not claim it as yours. Although I was voted to speak on behalf of the class, it would be inaccurate and irresponsible for me to stand here and pretend I can represent each and every one of you and your experience at Williams. I didn't always feel this way. I was tempted to try and write a speech that would encompass the entirety of our past 4 years. For the record, I was also tempted to spend these 3 minutes teaching you how to fold your program into an origami cow, so I'm really grateful to my editors. Because I was chosen to represent my peers, I assumed my role was to deliver a speech that was a reflection of our shared experience, one that you would all nod along to as I somehow managed to summarize this, in 3 minutes. This task seemed as overwhelming and impossible as any assignment I've had in college, so I did what I know how to do. I sat down to write a paper. I analyzed, I synthesized, I reorganized my room, not the speech. I did my research, I took my notes, and I watched exactly what Netflix told me to. Mostly movies in the category foreign food dramas with a strong female lead. I wanted a theme. I wanted a thesis statement for our time at Williams. But I was using old tools for a new task. And what I got was a trivial list of our superficial connections. Something about the sun setting on the Berkshires and long tortured nights within Sawyer Library's doomed walls, and honestly a very weird biological tangent that included the phrase, our common blood, guts, double helices, and all that jazz. I was laboring and procrastinating over the premise that in speaking to you, I should speak for you. That's impossible. What I can say, what any of us can say, is what we know. My individual experiences inform my own perspective, as yours do for you. It's our responsibility then to learn more, to learn as much as we can, so that when times like these come, we can say more. Not in mere word count, but more in the sense of an informed empathy, a respect, and a curiosity for the truths we have not yet heard. So I'll end here with my truth. My name is Julia. I am 5'4" and a third. I am 22 years old. I've been told that 22 is rather young, and there will be a day, probably more than one, when I change my mind and shift my course. And today will feel like a distant memory of a time when I was just becoming everything I will be. But I feel old, and right now this seems like a really big deal, so let's go with that. I feel old, and I feel scared. From what I've learned and heard and seen, I think a lot of you do too. We're scared to leave, we're scared to start, and we're scared to fail, even though failure might be exactly what we need right now. Leap and the net will appear just in time for you to take a selfie with it. So far, I'm old, I'm scared, and I have a sinking suspicion that half of my clothes have fallen behind my school-issued dresser drawers. Things are going great. All I can do in this moment is blatantly appropriate a quote from the movie Mean Girls, written by my best friend-to-be, Tina Fey. Ready? We just have a lot of feelings. And in a few minutes, we won't even go here. But we did, and we will always share that truth. What you can say is what you know, so learn more. Expand your truth with conviction and compassion. Thank you.
Our Phi Beta Kappa speaker is Julia Davis.
All right, hello class of 2014. How are you feeling? Isn't it good to be done writing papers? It's like great, right? Okay, parents, I know you probably wonder whether your child got a good education. And if you're like my parents, you probably think that they spent 4 years on a couch eating Cocoa Puffs, watching reruns of America's Next Top Model. But I'll remind you that Williams dominates the magazine ratings. We're always #1 on Playboy's list of America's best party schools. Probably because we got a high hot tub to student ratio. No, I'm kidding. To show how much we've learned, I wanted to write a final paper in the style that Williams taught us and share it with you. So I wrote this speech like every essay I wrote here. I started it an hour ago, and I plagiarized most of it. We'll see. All right, so good papers start with a summary of previous scholarship. And at graduation, speakers typically focus on the fun things about the life-changing Williams experience. But I want to fill a hole in the literature. So instead of reiterating how great this school is, I want to talk about how it's challenging. So here's my thesis, my main claim, is that Williams is really freaking hard. And that's what makes it life-changing. So to start, classes are tough, regardless of the grades that you get. You know how in high school you have math problems where you're not allowed to use calculators? At Williams, you have math problems where you're not allowed to use numbers. I'm serious. You can't assume that 2 + 2 is 4. You got to prove it with theorems. And I think it's crazy how English classes are taught in foreign languages with different vocabulary. You got words like dialectic, intersectionality, hegemony. And then professors use that special sign language when they talk about these things, like dialectic, intersectionality, hegemony. Did you guys notice that? And it's true, some people don't struggle as much academically, but Williams is also really hard socially. And because it's so small, there's sort of a pressure to know everyone, which can be scary. Like, I'll go to parties, like, pumped to meet new people, and then spend the whole night in the corner with my friends playing 20 questions. Like, is it beer? Yes. Does it look like urine? Yes. Is it Keystone Light? You win. But, like, we really only loosen up in our natural habitat, right? Like, that's why the biggest party of the year was in the library. Like, last month, there was a school-sponsored rager to say goodbye to the library that's being replaced. And let me tell you, it was wild. They had strobe lights and a DJ. It was so packed that the windows were steaming from all the body heat. Quick footnote. Instead of tearing down the library, I actually think we should use it as a nightclub. Like, you could turn the front desk into a bar, have different music on every floor, use like a cheesy slogan like Club Sawyer, check out hotties without late fees. It would be a boon to the social scene. But back to my central argument. I think our biggest challenge here is the time crunch. During finals, some students are so busy that they don't even have time to get dressed. Like, they're running around completely naked, frantically yelling, "Study harder, study harder." Have you guys seen them? It's heartbreaking. Also, I'm glad they gave us these robes because, like, I haven't had time to do laundry since, like, sophomore year. And since we currently look like Hogwarts students, I'll slip in a literary allusion for extra credit, that Williams can make you feel like Neville Longbottom, surrounded by Hermione Grangers with time turners. And Neville thinks, I'm not good enough for Gryffindor, I belong in Hufflepuff. And we think, I'm not good enough for Williams, I belong in Amherst. Burn. Gonna need aloe for that one. But like, for lots of us, it's really weird to be at a competitive school where we don't stick out anymore. But that doesn't mean that we don't fit in here. People say that Williams showcases students' talents, but it doesn't. Williams showcases our shortcomings. It makes us struggle at the things we thought we were good at, the things that defined our identities. But that's part of this shared experience. And by being tough, Williams taught us that who we are doesn't depend on being a great student or singer or streaker. These talents reflect our complex identity as individuals, or these talents don't reflect our complex identity as individuals, because to end with the liberal arts trump card, talents are merely social constructs. They're not who we are. That's the end of my paper, but I added a bibliography so that the honor committee wouldn't rescind my diploma. I mostly used Wikipedia, but I listed a couple other sources to like make it look like I did my research. First, thanks to the class of 2010, our friends and families, particularly my amazing friends and family. And Doris, I am so sorry for being flippant because you are an inspiration. Thanks to our faculty and staff, and finally to whoever coined the term social construct. Congrats, guys. Thanks.
As our final student speaker, we welcome the valedictorian of the class of 2014, Ivan Badinsky.
So when I first learned I was going to speak at graduation today, and after taking a selfie with my transcript, I thought to myself, sweet, you must be the first international, the first Bulgarian, or at least the first Ivan to get to this point. You can imagine my horror then when I found out that just in the last 10 years or so, there were at least 3 international students who gave the valedictorian speech. One of them was a Bulgarian, and to top it all off, he was named Ivan as well. I felt just a little less special on the inside and pondered for a couple of minutes the deeply existential question of why Ivan is such a popular name in Bulgaria. This little glimpse into my mental life is probably enough to convince you that I, like most Williams students, am an active participant in the business of comparing myself to other people. We, the people of Williams, might not speak about grades with our friends, but please do take a moment and try to recollect whether you've been in a situation before where a conversation about everyone's schedule was instantly turned into a competition who has the busiest workload, the most extracurricular activities, or the highest honors. I certainly have. As smart and ambitious people, it is unsurprising that we seek metrics to compare our performance to that of other smart and ambitious people. Yet it seems to me that there's something deeply anxious about this proclivity. First, because part of us really wants to score higher than others on any given metric. And second, because it can be really freaking hard to figure out why do we want what these metrics measure. Without knowing this, we are in danger of endowing these metrics with a life on their own, of constantly seeking the reassurance of the high scores while incessantly battling the primal fear that others are better than us, and being unable to tell why this is such a frightening prospect other than the blind rage it tends to send our parents into. Now, having posed the hard question of what is it that your heart really craves, as a philosophy major, I will do what philosophers do best: leave the question blank and hope to get credit for the whole deal. I cannot help but think that this is one of those unanswerable questions, because the answer changes as we change, grow, and encounter new perspectives, ideas, and experiences. What gave us meaning in the past might not give us meaning anymore, and it's difficult to predict what will give us meaning in the future. For example, I really did think that Ivan was the best name to have in Bulgaria about a week ago. It seems to me, however, that the true response to this question is not to have an answer ready when it's posed to us, to hide behind predetermined metrics and neat little labels and hope that they somehow bestow meaning on our existence, but to embrace its complexity and the continual reevaluation of who we are as an essential element of our nature. Part of the value of a Williams education is that we have to change the metrics we think in and reshuffle the available labels in our minds when we are exposed to a variety of academic fields and when we interact with individuals that are not at all minded like us, but that are equally talented and intellectually curious. For this reason alone, I think it's a good thing that we do not speak about our grades, because it's easy to compare grades, but it's hard to figure out what these grades mean to and about each one of us. Fellow classmates, I am fairly confident that the vast majority of the facts and concepts we have learned in class here will be forgotten in the exciting and diverse lives we're likely to lead. We have learned these concepts as answers to paper prompts, problem set items, and exam questions. Yet I cannot help but think that the most important skill we have attained in this place is not to answer these questions, but to question the answers we give and have been given. Because rather than immutable like the theorems of mathematics, the models of economics, or the laws of nature, the answers to the questions that are most important to us right here, right now, and at any given time and place in our lives are likely to be as mercurial and capricious as Williamstown weather. The power to leave the answer to these questions blank is a special power that everyone gathered here has. Because of this alone, I hope that we'll all be able to lead happy and fulfilling lives. Congratulations.
With the ending of this academic year, 6 members of the faculty will have reached the conclusion of their Williams careers, and we will now honor those who are in attendance with us today. Michael F. Brown. For 34 years, you have been the consummate citizen, subsuming your own interests for the greater good of this campus community. In addition to a record of splendid teaching, you have stepped forward at every chance to serve your colleagues. This includes as department chair, key committee member, and director of both the Center for Technology in the Arts and Humanities and the Oakley Center. Most notably, you have co-led the inclusive, multi-year effort to imagine and design the transformation of instruction and office space for more than half our faculty, and to redefine the idea of the library for liberal arts colleges. These efforts will benefit faculty and students for generations to come. You have been quick to give credit elsewhere, but the factor common to these advances has been your deft leadership. That same thoughtfulness has characterized your scholarship, much of it focused on the moral complexities involved in our understanding of Native peoples of North and South America and of American spirituality, work that has gained international attention. We look forward with understandable pride to the fruits of your next form of service as president of the School of Advanced Research. I hereby declare you James N. Lambert, class of 1939, professor of anthropology and Latin American studies, emeritus, entitled to all the rights, honors, and privileges appertaining thereto. Richard J. Farley. In more than a century of football, Williams never had a perfect season. Then you came along and had 5. Your teams, in fact, won nearly 85% of their games, a record that earned you induction into the College Football Hall of Fame. Records, however, show just the surface of your coaching, and we here also know its depth. Your seemingly gruff exterior could never hide your large, soft heart, as the striving to win was for you the way to develop life skills in your students. As one of them has said, he showed all of us how to make the tough decisions, both on and off the field, and how to compete with honor. You have been for Williams a triple threat, not only leading football, but coaching track and field, and directing the college's expansive program of club and intramural sports. Not even Knut Rockne did that. You have been known also as a master coiner of terse descriptions and homespun wisdom. Your name will now be enshrined on the very field on which future generations of players will learn and grow and gain their own wisdom, and where the sons and daughters of Williams will gather for the sheer pleasure of doing what you so often did, beating Amherst. I hereby declare you Assistant Professor of Physical Education Emeritus, entitled to all the rights, honors, and privileges appertaining thereto. David S. Keckley. So revolutionary has been the effect on the music department of your many years' service as chairman that students once affectionately posted a Mao-like portrait of you at the entrance to Bernhardt. Under your benevolent leadership, the department broadened its curriculum to embrace new cultures and raised dramatically the scope and the level of student and faculty performance. Through some 125 events yearly, music now fills this campus like that of no other liberal arts college. Your masses of followers include the many students who, trained by your instruction and inspired by your example, have gone on to careers in composition. Your own musical creations, supported by the National Endowment for the Arts and by a Guggenheim Fellowship, have won ASCAP awards almost annually and have been performed around the world. The titles of these works show the great range of your imagination. from the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse to the Funky Chicken for String Quartet. May emeritus status now afford you more time to contemplate soft refrains and gentle whispers. I hereby declare you Professor of Music Emeritus, entitled to all the rights, honors, and privileges appertaining thereto. It is our custom at this time to award honorary degrees to people of great accomplishment and in many varied walks of life. We hold them up as deserving of honor and as examples for our graduates this day. Karen Armstrong. From nunnery to the World Economic Forum, yours has been quite a pilgrimage. Your true vocation, it turned out, was not to immerse yourself in one tradition, but to explicate to the world with a prophetic voice all three of the Abrahamic religions. In work that has been translated into 50 languages, you have helped us better comprehend each other's faiths and even our own. And you have done so at a time when knowledge of religion has become even more critical to an understanding of world events. Thus, you have been invited to address members of Congress and policymakers at the Departments of State and Defense. You have taken your important perspective even to Davos. You are an ambassador to the UN Alliance of Civilizations, and were the first foreigner to be awarded a medal by the Egyptian government for services to Islam. From what you consider the common ground of these traditions, you have lifted compassion as an instinct worthy of our conscious development as individuals, communities, and nations. Your charter for compassion is now being implemented around the world. The fundamental question that the charter challenges us all to address, including all of us here and all who hold this college dear, is a simple but powerful one. What does compassion ask of our community? I hereby declare you recipient of the honorary degree, Doctor of Divinity, entitled to all the rights, honors, and privileges appertaining thereto. Gregory M. Avis, class of 1980. With the seemingly endless energy of a long-distance road biker, you have somehow managed to combine a successful career in business and a commitment to inner-city teaching with broad engagement in the nonprofit world, most notably here at Williams. As a founding managing director of Summit Partners, you have served on the boards of more than 40 growth companies, while teaching mathematics at Eastside College Preparatory School in East Palo Alto, and serving on many nonprofit boards, including those of Art Store, the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, and the National Outdoor Leadership School. Your deepest engagement, however, has been with the college that you love, where you have been a deeply attentive board chair, investing the time necessary to develop close relationships with faculty and staff, with students and alumni. A democratizer of the boardroom, you have worked to include all voices in the building of consensus. You helped lead the college's effective response to the Great Recession and the professionalization of its endowment management, both of which will benefit our students in perpetuity. In all of this work, you have epitomized our alumni body, devoted, generous of heart, and determined to do whatever it takes for Williams to continue evolving toward an even brighter future. I hereby declare you recipient of the honorary degree, Doctor of Laws, entitled to all the rights, honors and privileges appertaining thereto. Stephen Chu. Perhaps the most urgent problems facing humanity involve how we produce energy. And perhaps no one has been more deeply involved than you in both the science and the public policy of those challenges. Your research has tested fundamental theories in atomic physics, quantum electronics, and energy, along with biophysics and biomedicine. Your work on laser cooling atoms earned you a Nobel. During your 4 years as the first scientist to serve as Secretary of Energy, you promoted high-end research on energy solutions. Much of it focused on collaborations between scientists and engineers. These efforts hold the promise of vast, long-lasting effects. While in office, you also played high-profile roles in the response to 2 of the most dramatic environmental emergencies of our time, being credited with leading the effort that figured out how to plug the Deep Horizon leak in the Gulf of Mexico, and with guiding the government of Japan's management of the tsunami-damaged nuclear reactors at Fukushima. In fact, you could be the model for a new caped action figure. Energy Man. Mild-mannered researcher by day, globe-traveling hero by night. Now that you are back at your Clark Kentish role at Stanford, it is most appropriate, given your double life, that your appointment is as professor of both humanities and sciences. I hereby declare you recipient of the honorary degree Doctor of Science, entitled to all the rights, honors, and privileges appertaining thereto. Vishaka N. Desai. No wonder you are known as the bridge builder. In 22 years at the Asia Society, including 8 as president and CEO, you have helped open the world's eyes to Eastern cultures. You began with a focus on the arts, when, as director of the Society's museum, you forged its reputation as a leader in the presentation of Asian contemporary art, encouraging artists to find their voice and deepening our understanding of the roots from which the Eastern world's astonishing economic and political change have grown. With you as president, the Society's educational work expanded fourfold, including in the teaching of Chinese language in American public schools, and spread more deeply into the realms of business and public policy. You added offices in India and South Korea and developed a spectacular new facility in Houston. You have created networks of leaders across cultures and paid particular attention to supporting those who are women and those who are young. The result of all these efforts has been the deepening of ties among cultures that have been dangerously wary of each other for centuries. As the New York Times concluded, at a time when the eyes of the world are on Asia, this institution is indispensable. I hereby declare you recipient of the honorary degree Doctor of Laws, entitled to all the rights, honors, and privileges appertaining thereto. Michael R. Bloomberg. Historians will have a field day with you. What makes for good copy now makes for vivid history later. They might be business historians, telling how from a one-room office, you built the company whose 15,000 employees in 73 countries transformed the financial information industry and altered the very geography of the American workplace. They might be political historians, analyzing your three-term election as a candidate from outside the usual categories to one of the most visible and most challenging positions in government. They might be historians of the urban renaissance, noting how American cities regained their swagger. They might be medical historians, marveling that there actually had once been a time when it was acceptable to smoke in public places. They might be historians of immigration, citing your strong advocacy of policy reform. They might be historians of climate change, noting your leadership of cities around the world in reducing their carbon footprints. They might be historians of philanthropy, writing of the watershed moment when people for the first time pledged publicly to give away more than half of their wealth. They might even be social historians, pinpointing the moment when leaders of courage finally, we dearly hope, turned the tragic tide of gun violence. The one thing we are sure of, Mr. Mayor, is that we will be talking about you for a very long time to come. I hereby declare you recipient of the honorary degree Doctor of Laws, entitled to all the rights, honors, and privileges appertaining thereto. It is our custom to ask one of our honored guests to speak on behalf of the entire group of recipients of honorary degrees. This year, we will have the pleasure of hearing Mayor Mike Bloomberg.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, President Falk. Everyone has been telling me what a great job you've been doing, and I am not surprised because you came from another great American academic institution, the Johns Hopkins University, my alma mater. But today, I'm honored to be an EAF. Friends, families, faculty, let me begin by offering a big congratulations to every member of the amazingly talented, brilliant, and distinguished class of 2014. Now, I've heard from many people that you truly are an outstanding group, including from Queen Bolton herself. I've also heard that you spent 4 years grappling with life's toughest questions, like what's the nature of the universe, what should be done about climate change, where does Dean Dave get his white tracksuits, and what should the president's house be used for since President Falk doesn't live there. I've actually gotten some crazy ideas about that. If he does become the new location of First Fridays, count me in. Now, whatever happens going forward, whatever obstacles and adventures you encounter in your lives, you can always take great pride that you hold a degree that says Williams College and not Amherst. Let me also offer my congratulations to another very important group here today, the men and women beaming with pride without even thinking about the tuition bills they paid and the prospect of you moving back into their basements, your parents. Maybe they deserve a nice round of applause from you. Now, I also want to give a special salute to the parents and families who didn't make hotel reservations early enough and who stayed last night in Montreal. But today, it's about the graduates and all of you who have overcome no shortage of challenges to get here. You survived an 8:30 a.m. class in the science quad when you lived in Tyler House, which is somewhere in Vermont. You survived the intense rivalry between Mission and Frosh Quad, as well as the wild and crazy nightlife of Williamstown. I actually wanted to enjoy some of that last night, but I arrived after 6 p.m. However, while I was in town, I did go to the Herring and had a few dark and stormies. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea to write my speech after that, but who doesn't cram in college? So I went over to Sawyer Library, where I stayed until the 2 a.m. nerd bell. Thank you for that. At that point, I still had more work to do, but I went to sleep hoping that President Falk would declare one last Mountain Day. Oh, well. Seriously, standing here today, I can't help but think back to my own college graduation 50 years ago tomorrow. Things were a little different back then. If you had uttered the phrase social media, people would have thought you were a communist. Here at Williams, no women were permitted to enroll as students. A high school graduate could get a job at the local factory, like the ones in North Adams and Pittsfield, which offered a ticket into the middle class. Vietnam was hardly even a topic of conversation back then. In much of the country, racial segregation was still legal. Our immigration laws effectively kept out Africans, Asians, and Latin Americans, along with Jews, Italians, and others deemed undesirable. Abortion was illegal in all 50 states. Even contraception was illegal in some states. As a matter of fact, here in Massachusetts, giving contraception to an unmarried person was a felony that could get you 5 years in prison. As best as I can remember in Massachusetts, the law was not strictly enforced. My graduation class had no idea that the world that we were entering into was about to change radically, even as it remained stubbornly the same. That May, back in 1964, President Lyndon Johnson gave a commencement address at the University of Michigan, where he outlined a new vision for the country's future, which he called the Great Society. That idealistic vision became the basis for the most sweeping domestic policy agenda since Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal. There is no doubt that Johnson's agenda moved the country forward in major ways. But 50 years later, it's equally clear that the promise of the Great Society remains unfulfilled. Today, despite landmark civil rights legislation that created a more equal society, Black and Latino children are twice as likely than white children to drop out of high school, twice as likely to end up out of work, and far more likely to be the victim or perpetrator of a violent crime. Despite the creation of Medicare and Medicaid, more than 30 million Americans still have no health insurance even after the implementation of Obamacare. Despite the federal money poured into public schools beginning with Title I in 1965, high school graduation rates remain virtually unchanged, and our students have gone from leading the development world to finishing towards the back of the pack. Despite the immigration reform bill passed in 1965, our immigration system is stifling our economy and locking too many people out of it. Despite a 1968 law that banned felons and the mentally ill from owning guns, both groups can buy them with ease and murder at will. Despite unconditional war on poverty, the national poverty rate is now higher than it was when Johnson left office. 50 years later, the work of building a great society is far from finished. And today, the responsibility for that work passes to you, the class of 2014. And I wanted to share a few thoughts with you on what I think is the most important lesson that we've learned since I was in your shoes, and the promise of the Great Society filled America with hope. The most important lesson we've learned since then is not that government did too little, as liberals tend to argue, or that government tried to do too much, as conservatives tend to argue, but that both liberals and conservatives walked away from the spirit that gave rise to the Great Society. In 1932, in the midst of the Great Depression, Franklin Roosevelt gave a commencement address in which he offered a simple idea that would save America from ruin. He said, "The country needs and the country demands bold, persistent experimentation. It is common sense to take a method and try it. If it fails, admit it frankly and try another. But above all, try something. Now, Roosevelt understood what all entrepreneurs and scientists understand. Not every idea works, and failure is part of success. What we learn from failure and what we do with that knowledge is really what matters. Try something. And to his great credit, Johnson did just that. But in the decades that followed, those in Washington, especially Democrats, refused to hold programs accountable when they failed to produce results, preferring to throw good money after bad. Others in Washington, especially Republicans, attacked government spending without offering solutions to problems that free markets cannot solve on their own. Ideology blinded both sides, and the bold, persistent experimentation that defined the Great Society agenda slowly disappeared. We have not seen much of it since, not in Washington anyways, and the country has suffered as a result. But more and more, we have seen bold experimentation in the places that President Johnson put at the center of his Great Society vision, cities. In his address at Michigan, Johnson said, quote, "Over the next 40 years, we must rebuild the entire urban structure of the United States," unquote. Instead, as we all know, in the decades that followed, urban areas across America collapsed. Race riots, factory closures, violent crime, dysfunctional schools, abandoned neighborhoods, rusting infrastructure, welfare dependency. Cities became a symbol of a failed society, and the federal government basically gave up on them. The future, everyone believed, belonged to the suburbs. But history, you'll learn, has a habit of proving conventional wisdom wrong. Over time, I'm happy to say, cities began clawing their way back. Not with help from the federal government, but through bold, persistent experimentation at the local level. And a perfect example of that is North Adams, where the old electronics plant is now mass MoCA, thanks to Mayor John Barrett and local leaders who rallied around the idea. Today, if you want to see the most innovative experiments in promoting economic growth, fighting poverty, battling climate change, transforming education, and improving public health, don't go to Washington. You go to the cities and towns, large and small, where the spirit of experimentation is flourishing. And it is flourishing because, by and large, local leaders are not blinded by ideology. They are pragmatic problem solvers who are not afraid to try something. Most mayors don't ask if an idea is liberal or conservative. They ask, will it improve people's lives? Because they know that a great city and a great society is built on innovation, not ideology. Across the country, mayors are turning city halls into laboratories, and the experiments they are conducting are moving us closer to fulfilling Johnson's vision. Just take one of the most important issues facing the planet, climate change. Congress has been AWOL because in Washington, climate change is largely an ideological issue. But in cities, climate change is a health and economic issue. People want to breathe clean air, and they want it to be protected from national disasters that threaten their homes and businesses. And that's why mayors, Democrats and Republicans, have taken action to mitigate and to adapt to climate change. In New York City, we reduced our carbon footprint by 19% in just 6 years. And as a result, New York City's air is cleaner than it's been in 50 years. We did it in the only way we knew how, through bold, persistent experimentation. And we took the same approach to attacking other major problems, including smoking, obesity, and poverty. As a result, life expectancy in New York City is now almost 3 years longer than the national average, and New York City was the only big city to experience no increase in poverty, zero, since the 2000 census. While Washington was making excuses, local governments conducted experiments. On no issue is that difference more obvious, with more deadly consequences, than gun violence. One of the toughest parts of being mayor is the call you get in the middle of the night when a police officer has been shot. You rush to the hospital. When the family arrives, sometimes you have to deliver the news that no parent and no spouse should ever have to hear. It is heartbreaking, and it never gets any easier. Now, members of Congress don't have those moments because they don't get those calls in the middle of the night, and they don't get asked to speak at funerals. For them, the issue of gun violence is political. For mayors, it is personal. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled that nothing in the Second Amendment prevents Congress from regulating gun sales and ownership to protect public safety. Given that 33 Americans are murdered with guns every single day, and another 50 Americans use guns to commit suicide every single day, you might think that members of Congress would engage in bold, persistent experimentation to change that situation. But they don't, because they fear the gun lobby will come after them. Mayors see it differently. Mayors understand that this issue is not about the Second Amendment. It's about their first responsibility to public, protecting lives. And so mayors have experimented with new programs and laws to crack down on the illegal gun market. In New York City, we're able to cut the number of murders in half. We've saved over 9,000 lives in the last 12 years. Most of them would have been Black and Hispanic young men in poor neighborhoods. That work was not always popular, but we listened carefully to the concerns in the courts and made changes to address them. The bottom line is, government's obligation to protect each individual's civil liberties includes protecting everyone's right to walk down the street without taking a bullet. And I will never stop trying to help those who are most at risk of gun violence. And that's why I'm so committed to convincing Congress and state legislators to take action. And until they do, innocent people, thank you. Until they do, innocent people will continue to be killed in our streets every day, and mass shootings will continue to occur on an almost regular basis. After the recent tragedy in Santa Barbara, California, and the one a few days ago in Seattle, you can't help but wonder, how many more tragedies will it take Congress to act? And I think Richard Martinez, the grieving father of a young man killed in Santa Barbara, said it best: not one more. Not one more child, not one more college student, not one more police officer, not one more American. We must demand that Congress try something. More experimentation, fewer excuses. More problem solving, less partisanship. That is the biggest challenge facing our political system today, and it is the most fundamental lesson of the struggle to build a great society. 50 years after President Johnson challenged the graduating class of 1964, my class, to imagine a better America and bring it to life, the challenge still stands, and it is now your challenge as well. The issues are not exactly the same as they were in 1964, but the work is just as urgent. Because long as children can be murdered in our schools and streets with illegal guns, the work of building a safe society must continue. As long as two people can be denied a government marriage license based on their gender, the work of building an equal society must continue. As long as families live in poverty, and as long as the children of immigrants are denied opportunities to participate fully in our society, the work of building a compassionate society must continue. As long as our air and water continue to be polluted and the risks of climate change are ignored, the work of building a healthy society must continue. And as long as there is a United States of America, the work of building a great society must continue. In the years ahead, more and more of this work will occur in cities, both big and small. But wherever you live, I urge you to be a part of it. It won't be easy, but I firmly believe you can make even more progress over the next 50 years that we made over the past 50. If you carry Roosevelt's words with you, try something. If it fails, learn from it and try something else. And that's the key to success in public policy, in scientific discovery, and also, I can tell you, in developing your careers. When I was 39 years old, I was fired from a job that I'd had for a decade and a half. I loved that job, but getting fired from it was the best thing that ever happened to me, other than the birth of my 2 daughters, because it gave me the opportunity to try something else. Setbacks are only setbacks if you allow them to be. If you never fail, you're not aiming high enough. You show me a person who has never failed, and I will show you the failure of a person. If you never let the fear of failure stop you from pursuing a goal, you are destined for great things, just like so many other Williams grads before you. Now just take a look around you. That college council leader could follow in James Garfield's footsteps all the way to the White House. That person you know who writes for the Record could be a future Aaron Barnett. And the guy who took charge of the entries boom ball team and then fired everyone could be the next George Steinbrenner. There is no limit to what you can achieve in your life if you just remember Roosevelt's words. Follow the motto on the Hopkins gate. Climb high, climb far, your goal the sky, your aim the star. I was going to recite a line from your alma mater, but I could only remember the mountains, we greet them with a song. So tonight, have one more dark and stormy at the Herring, and tomorrow, get to work building a truly great society. Good luck and God bless.
Thank you, Mike. It is now my great pleasure to ask Dean Bolton to present the candidates for degrees.
Mr. President, on behalf of the faculty, I have the honor to present the following candidates for the degree of Master of Arts in the History of Art. Thaddeus J. Dare Dowett. Melissa Horn. Matthew Allen Cluck. Megan Elizabeth Kozinski. Emily Leifer. Benjamin Orion Murphy. Nina Colette Pelez. Hillary Reeder. David Jeffrey Sludge. Anna Claire Powell Steinbring. Robert A. Weinstein. And Leishi Yu.
By virtue of the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts in the History of Art, entitled to all the rights, honors, and privileges appertaining thereto. Congratulations.
Mr. President, on behalf of the faculty, I have the honor to present the following fellows at the Center for Development Economics for the degree of Master of Arts in Policy Economics. Tsotne Amashukeli. Mosina Atik. Margot Ayala Lino. Marliatu Ba. Mpatso Chusuwu Banda. Mamudu Bari. Bigendaku Edouard Normand. Chizomo Faith Chakachadza. Japhet Chiwala. Abebois Zerihun Demilu. Nino Devdariani. Ali Khaleb. Rebecca Maria Hernandez Asturias. Shireen Hazira Hasamuddin. Ratana Hoon. Aziz Holboboyev, Le Fu Lo, Mugdo Mim Mazab, Christina Manashuva, Silver Namunane, Diana Nusopova, Jaweed Omar, Seli Natalia Pertiwi, Anna Noor Ramawati, Menaka Rajaguru, Vatana Sanuban, Parinya So, Abdul So, Sultan Abdul Karim Toure, and Jaime Vargas.
By virtue of the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts in Policy Economics, entitled to all the rights, honors, and privileges appertaining thereto. Congratulations.
Mr. President, on behalf of the faculty, I have the honor to present the following candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts in course. Arsima Berhanu Abagaz, Jacob Thomas Abrahams, Tala Aladdin Abujbara, Abigail Marie Adams, Jenna Kale Adams, Jacob Daniel Adelson, Sikandar Ahmadi, Tony Uhyun An, Nicholas Aquilano Akiwumi, Elizabeth Beatrice Albert, Alexandra Pillette Albright, Azd Ali Al-Qadasi, Benjamin Waller Allison, Abdul Rahman Zied Al-Suderi, Ilya Dmitriev Amburg, Robert William Amster in absentia, Nicholas Allen Anderson, Eloise Claire Andre, Melissa Arias in absentia, Samuel Isaac Austin, Amina Avril, Khalid Walid Uwad, Jamie Beck, Tucker James Harwood Bear in absentia, Manthan George Anthony Baker, Megan Jane Bantle, Emily Elizabeth Barata, Kevin Xavier Barbary, Shayna Marie Barbash, Anna McDonald Barnes, Emily Rose Bareka, Siobhan Barsaid, Noah Jules Bashevkin, Teal Kirsten Baskerville, Gordon Scott Bauer in absentia, Charles F. Baxter. Richard Ivor Beaton. Katie Sarah Berenbaum. Amy Jean Berg in absentia. Heather Elizabeth Beal. Caitlin Frances Bird. Leslie Rose Blackshear. Sharona Louisa Bollinger. Kalila Gwen Booker Casano. John Benedict Burke. Grace Dorothy Boughton. Ross Mayhew Bowen. Christina Ida Bravi. Todd Aaron Brenner. Jeff Charles Brewington Jr. Nathan Raymond Bricault. Jason Rastrick Briggs. Timothy Glenn Brock. Carson Christopher Brooks. Anne Beatrice Rougerine Marie Brower. Bianca Sue Brown. David Adam Burns. Craig McLowry Burt. Jacob Richard Butts. Noah Jean-Marie Cadet. Rachel Alexandra Caffey. Emily Nichols Calkins. Sharon Carey Peacock Campbell. Stephanie Aurora Cardenas. Robert Davis Carnes. Caitlin Marie Carrigan. Ofelia Carrillo Dorado. Robert Adrian Castro. Zorelli Cristina Cepeda Deria. Jennifer Lee Chan. Tiffany Yuchi Chang. Simon Charles Chase. Alejandra Chavira. Shiwen Chen. Sophia Chen. Taylor Lynn Louise Chertkov. And Topisang Choma. Linda Tsuquan Chu. Monica Kim Seville. Megan Jenkins Clark. Martin Andrew Clark, Jr. Peter Lincoln Clement in absentia. Judith R. Clerjeune. Henry James Stewart Coates. Eric Gabriel Coffin Gould. Christopher Elliott Cogswell. Lucy McKendry Coleman. Rebecca Violetta Comella. Abigail Elizabeth Conyers. Haley Ann Cook. Galen Emma Corey. Elizabeth Ann Cornett. Craig Matthew Corsi. Rose de Lima Corteau. Laura Gibbs Cullen. Blair Elizabeth Kersey. Refilo Agre Demane. Remington Kincaid Damper. Alida Ashby Davis. Alan Bradford Davis. William Tucker Dayton. Paul Alexandre de Concali Tege. Diana de la Torre. Chiara Wheeler del Piccolo. Philippe Di Montigny. Dylan Nyland de Chair. Celines Diaz. Jamie Lynn Dickhouse. Charlotte Elizabeth Dillon. Daniel Thomas DeVitri. Jennifer May Doctolero. Emily Adeline Dahl. Antonio A. Dominguez. Connor William Dowling. Matthew Francis Doyle. Peter Mars Drews. Henley Lewis Dreyer. Catherine Ann Dreyer. Emily Elena Dugdale. Stephanie Rachel Durrell. Demarius Deontay Edwards. William Josiah Edwards Mazel. Johanna Sophie Eitman. Richard Paul Eisland Jr. in absentia. Carson Mark Eisenach. Nico Persecha Ekasumara. Kathleen Diana Elkins. Christopher Michael Elliott, posthumously. Ilana Ellis. Neil Anthony Ellis. Peter Gary Ellis. Thomas Cotton Engelby. Aline Megan Ensor. Nicholas Louis Everett. Rebecca Hollybow Fallon. Felicia Shanice Farrow. Luke Dunnan Faust. Katie Jane Fader. And Robert William Fader. Julian Manuel Fernandez. Isabella Maria Ferre. Daniel Faria Ferreira. Parker Samuel Finch. Sarah Gould Finkel in absentia. Benjamin Viton Fishberg. Samuel Owen Flynn in absentia. Spencer Alexander Floor. John Taylor Fail. Julianne Fontana. Caitlin Miranda Foster. Colin Henninger Foster. Melanie Sarahi Funes. Liam Whalen Gallinger. Stephanie M. Gallo. Maria Claudia Galvez in absentia. Anna V. Garzon. Natalie Andrea Garzon. Kelsey Blair Gouger. Joshua Elliott Geller. Catherine Helen Gurkis. Harry Hudson Kelly Gilbert. Robin Minji Gim. Jillian Laning Giornelli. Pushpanjali Giri. Dylan Heron. William Joseph Glidden. Carrie Duffy Gottlich. Jeremy Klein Gold. Michael Scott Gold. Molly Joel Goldberg. Louisa Rosella Goodman. John Thomas Gorman. Sarah Pearl Gottesman. Phoebe Marie Gould. Vera Ann Gould. Ethan David Archer Gracer. Allison Kate Grabner. Christopher Holmes Greeno. Isabel Marlee Greer. Bill Griffin Jr. Zoe Elizabeth Gruskin. Heng Chao J. Gu. Gabor Gurbash. George Goodyear Gurney Jr. in absentia. Eric Jonathan Hagan. Miriam Sophia Fitzgibbon Hale. Jared David Hallett, summa cum laude. Taylor Lee Halperin. Laurel Christella Hamers. Lacey Elizabeth Hainkin. Michael William Hanley Jr. in absentia. Elizabeth Mary Hart. Maya Ray Hawkins Nelson. William McCarthy Hayes. Massimo De Concini Henninger. Karen Grace Hensley. Charles Edward Herman. Brenda Hernandez. Marco Jose Hernandez. Chase Alexander Hicks. Christopher James Higgins. Kathleen Whitmore Higgins. John Nguyen Ho. Isaac Mitchell Honig. Karina Christine Hofstee. Cecilia Marie Holm. Anna McIntyre Hopkins. Nina Beryl Harwitz. Sean Charles Hurley. Joseph Rocco Iafredi, summa cum laude. Melanie Idler. Christine Ihara. Sang-Hyun Im. Anne McCullough Inglis in absentia. Manasi Iyer. Emily Adams Jablonski. Lysander Philip L'Italien Jaffe. Kella L. Jan. Jennifer Jaregi. Kenny Emmanuel Jean. April Elizabeth Jenkins. Anna Estea Zhang. Samuel Jung. Jalicia Alicia Jolly. Alexandra Bakia Jones. Patrick Magnus Nezit Joslin. Sarah Kang. Matthew Christopher Kastner. Kaylee Rose Kenny. Anshita Kandawal. Catherine Jean Kiernan. Elizabeth Hill Kildall. Sue Young Kim. James Michael Kinney. Catherine Marie Kissler. Bradford George Kainitzer. Willis George Kumson. Henry William Coster IV. Nicholas Simon Kraus. David Maxwell Kruger. Juan June Cook. Samuel Richard Kurland. User Kushena. Maxwell C. LaBerge. Peter Hilton Lebovich. Stefan Kingston Linovich. Margaret McClellan Lanfear. Erica Jade Landsberg. Christian Thomas Lapointe. Alexander Scott Latourette, summa cum laude. Anna Barbara Lau. Camuela Nicholas Lau. Kevin Christopher Lawkins. Son Nok Le. Vu Le, summa cum laude. Joanne Lee Milagros Lebron. Christopher Mujin Lee. Daniel Taesung Lee. David Scott Lee. Hannah Marie Lee. Louisa Manogue Lee. Minju Lee. Teresa Bettina Legan. Alyssa Rebecca Levine. Amy Melissa Levine. Daniel Adam Levine. Eric Yowei Liao. Daniel Francisco Lima. Iman Ibrahim Lipumba. Claire Liu. Jingyi Lu. Michael Anthony Lomeo Jr. Anne Abigail Longobardo. Cristina Lopez Torres in absentia. Fernando Laura Jr. Ralston Peregrine Louis. Marissa Brianne Lowe. Young Lu. Jessica Lunning. Victor Dan Lowe. Jacqueline Elizabeth Lusardi. Anne Hunter Lynch. Mary Margaret McCallum. John Timothy Mackesy Jr. Rachel La Ying McLean. Maximiliano Magana. Morlin Chariro Magaronga. Maeve Elizabeth McGuire in absentia. Trust Celestinos Mandavana. Renee Victor Marcellus. Stephen John Marino. William Andrew Marsh IV. Adam Scott Marsky. Andrew Mountford Maruka. Julia Elizabeth Marver. Sato Matsui. Julia McKinney May. Michael Delaney Mayer. Isaac Mays Rothstein. Nicholas Joseph Maziarka. Matthew Wilson McCarran. Maya Ramez McCormick. Matthew Wayne McCreary. Chi Sun McDermott. Kelsey Drake McDermott. Josephine Elizabeth Victoria McDonald. Robert William McDonald, in absentia. Molly Helene Fleck McEntee. Bryden Michael McGee. Rebecca Patrice McGovern. Brian Westfall McGrail. Maya Inor McGregory. Zachary Michael McKenzie. Courtney Wynne McLaughlin. Cassandra Dolores McClellan. Emmanuel Lee McMiller. Carl Jepson McPherson. Ali Michael McTarr, in absentia. Jelani Ray Medford. Henry Patrick Megley. Cesar Melendez. Connor James Mercandante. Sarah Elizabeth Meyerhoff. Anthony Carlos Michelli. Matthew Joseph McKelly. Caroline Olivia Miller, summa cum laude. Joshua Stanley Miller Lewis. Eric Mincer. Brianne Courtney Marecki. Fanny Rebecca Malauer. Jessica Estefania Monterosa Mena. Sophia Whitney Montgomery. Nara Moon. Tallis Edward Moore. Tucker Benjamin Moore. Francisca Victoria Moraga Lopez. Yoelkis Morales. Molly Grace Moran. Anna Maria Mariondo. Peter Robert Morrow. Liliana Schmalzer Morris. Malika Maria Eloise Moufle. Karina Jing Moy. Amanda Margaret Murashigi. Mackenzie Nicole Emery Murdoch. Samantha Alice Murray. Christopher Daniel Navarro. Catherine Alice Newcomer. Dowdy Kipkorir Neno, in absentia. Nam No. Julia Hun Nguyen. Kan Phuong Nguyen, in absentia. Mai Kan Nguyen. Stephanie Kim An Win. Carla Hunt Nicasio. Liliana Jenny Nienstedt. Ivana Nicolau. Joshua Goodrich Neimer. Brian Dwyer Noonan. Emily Marie Norkett. Alyssa Wilkes Northrup. Taylor Wild Nutting. Leo Kenneth Obata. Nina Rose Oberman. Ashley Patrice O'Connor. Meg Kathleen O'Connor. Xavier Sean O'Connor. Elisheba Ajayi O'Day. Jacqueline Atieno Odiambo. Teddy Otara Onsario. Lourdes Marie Orlando. Alexandra Rosana Oviedo. Francis Anthony McGinnis Pagliaro. Kwan Young Paik in absentia. Catherine Jiajing Pong. Michelle Elizabeth Paredes. Nehemiah Andrew Paramore. Min Hae Park in absentia. Julie Rachel Pascal in absentia. Emily Brooks Pavlini. Gregory Wallace Payton. Jonathan Eugene Picard. Aniela Michelle Perez. Aylin Rafael Perez. Byron Joseph Perpetua. Sarah Wilson Peters, summa cum laude. Alexandra May Peterson. Wade Matthias Fennessy. Theo Cordero Pippins. Natalie Darinka Placencia. Emily Elizabeth Prey. Alyssa Kwan. Eric Andrew K. Quay. Catherine Quezada. Gulnara Rajapova. Faraz Wasir Rahman. Gia Mary Recco. Adam Corey Reich. Marissa Chieco Repka. Randy Edward Reyes. Nathan William Reynolds. Maricos Hector Rhodes. Emma Beatrice Rickles, summa cum laude. Chelly Ridio. Lily Cantor Riopel. Laura K. Roche Sudar. Renee Miguel Rodriguez. Catherine Ann Rondo. Pedro Alexander Rock. Sarah Victoria Rosamond. Sarah Maria Rosenberg. Emma Vale Rouse. Megan Elizabeth Rowe. Claire Elizabeth Rudolph. Nathan Arnett Saffold. Georgiana May Salant. Jirapat Samramveja. Sarah Elizabeth Payne Sanders. John Bradley Sanderson. Rahul Sangar. Jesse Richard Sardell. Anna Duffy Savoy. Jackson William Schur. Henry Kenneth Schmidt. Daniel Bernard Schreiner, summa cum laude. Daniel Takeshi Seta. Cody Alton Semmelrock. Jun Han Song. Malik Nashad Sharp. Cara Marie Shoemaker. Benjamin Aaron Shuham. Francis Dean Sims II. Julia Solstice Simon. Carolyn Ann Sinico. Corey Dayon Smith. Nicole Elizabeth Smith. Lauren Elizabeth Smits. Hans Martin Soderstrom. Quinn Squires Solfisberg. Nitsa Marina Solis. Helen Minji Song. Meredith Jill Sofer. Ariana Talner Spiliotis. Cassandra Violet Spiller. Jacob Cameron Stark. Paul Jeffrey Steinig. Thomas Edward Stevens. Elizabeth Brody Stern. David Francis Stevens. Adam Jeffrey Strawbridge. Victoria Renner, student in absentia. Amanda Jennifer Sue. Jin Sil Sue. Peter Anjay Sullivan. Sean Michael Sutherland. Nathaniel Chase Sutton. Kirk Charles Swanson. Natalie Grace Shikovny. Bursabel Todesa. Paul Daniel Taylor. Catherine Redwood Taylor Hasty. Sonia Marie Nochterlein Thalheimer, in absentia. Lindsay Susan Tygeson. Andrew Dedrick Tobias. Megan Hannah Traeger. Russell Bowden Train. Evelyn Tran. Xiao Xiao Tu. Nicholas Stephen Tyson. Bianca Azucena Ulloa. Daniel Lawrence Underberg. Stephen Taylor McCarthy Upton. Areli Valencia. Isabel Fairchild Vasquez. Michael Joseph Versillo. Chow Yip Quoc Vo, summa cum laude. An Mai Vu. Gabrielle Davis Buchanan. Madeline Ying Wong, summa cum laude in absentia. Denise Claire Waite. Jaichi Wong. Melinda Binkai Wang. Olivia Yu Wang. Laura Teresa Wan. Amanda Francis Washington. John Stephen Warros. Alexandra Christine Weaver. Amodi Shanali Wirsing. John Christian Weinheimer. Douglas James Weinrib. Joseph Richard Weatherill. Jessica Alexandra Wicker. Emily Ann Wickstrom. Scott Tewksbury Wyman. Adam Kane Wiener. Jane Brokenbrough Wild. Grace Hall Wilson. Nicholas Griffin Wolf. Jillian Imani Wood. Samuel Robert Woodbury. Mattia Bryce Rubel. Tong Wu. Meredith Fan Yang. Isabel Angela Yoon. Mustafa Ali Urikolu. Caitlin Sachiko Umori. Hamza Mohammed Zaidan. Jens Joseph Zentil. Zhang Zhang. Dan Zhao. Frank Zhang. Kaiji Zhang. Anna S. Zhao. Daniel Michael Zilka. Julia French Juster. Julia Catherine Davis. Ivan Nikolaev Badinsky, summa cum laude. Tredez Aaron Colbert, Marshal to the class. Alexandra Lynn Pilch, Marshal to the class. Keelia Willison Reeg, Marshal to the class. And Samuel Willis Tripp, Marshal to the class. Will all members of the senior class please stand for the conferring of the degree?
By virtue of the authority, it's my last authority. By virtue of the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Bachelor of Arts, entitled to all the rights, honors, and privileges appertaining thereto. Congratulations. going to lose your hat deposits. I now call on Dennis O'Shea, President of the Society of Alumni, to welcome our new recipients of degrees.
Good morning, fellow Williams College alumni. I wanted to be the first to say that. I am uncomfortably, horribly aware that I am one of the last things standing between you and air conditioning. So I will be brief. But I do want to offer you a warm and very sincere welcome to membership in the Williams College Society of Alumni, the oldest college alumni association anywhere on this planet. And it's not just the oldest, it's probably one of the most important. And why do I say that? Like this. Our society, your society, was formed in 1821 to help save a college that was frankly in trouble. A lot of people had concluded that a college couldn't make it out here in the wilds of Western Massachusetts. The financial picture was scary. The president, a group of faculty, and even some students had defected over those hills back there to an institution whose name I shall not mention. So this college could easily have disappeared right then 193 years ago, but it didn't. It didn't because a small group of people, our fellow alumni, got together and decided that they had the college's back and that they had each other's back. And they made darn sure that this place didn't disappear. From them, down to us, down to you. The society has kept on making sure of that every single year since 1821. And while we've kept an eye on the welfare of the college, we've kept an eye on each other's welfare too. Those of you who until just a few moments ago were seniors have spent 4 years here forming a family. Those of you who until a few moments ago were graduate students have spent less time but formed just as important and tight a bond. So, as one of the Julias said a little while ago, today is a really big deal. But what I want you to know is that today you're not leaving that family. What you're doing today is bringing it out into the world to become part of an even bigger family. Out in that world are 27,000 new relatives. We're there to welcome you. We're there to offer advice. We're there to offer friendship and camaraderie and compassion. We're there, Mr. Mayor, to help them to try something new as they try to build a healthy, great society. And graduates, we're there to help you stay in touch with Williams. Just like 193 years ago, we have the college's back, and we have each other's back, and we've got your back. Congratulations. Welcome to the family that is the Williams College Society of Alumni. We'll see you out there in the world. And Julia, we'll be the ones folding the purple origami cows. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. With these ceremonies now drawing to a close, and in bidding you all farewell, I would remind the audience to remain standing until after the academic procession is moved out of the area and ask the new graduates to remain in line until they have reached Chapin Hall. That is the fastest way for us all to get to the air conditioning. As is our custom, we will now sing 2 verses of the Mountains, after which the chaplain to the college will offer a benediction. You will find the words to the Mountains, if you have not memorized them already, accompanied by our own Williams Commencement Ensemble in the program book.
A benediction is a good word from the Latin bene and dictus. The most obvious good word for this moment is the word go. Go now, from this place to whatever is waiting, with whatever this experience has given you, without whatever you are leaving behind, in the energy of accomplishment and in the humility of wisdom. Go. It's a good word, but not an easy one. It's a hard-won word. A word full of time, full of past and future, both. A word for today. A good word. So, if this place has come to seem like a home to you, then go in the strength of that embrace, trusting that it will go with you. Go into a world where many long to be as at home anywhere as you have been here. Go and offer what you know and what you have of home to those who long for the welcome you have known. And if this time has seemed ripe with possibilities to you, then go in the exhilaration of that ripeness, savoring the lingering sweetness of accomplishment. Go into a world that is ripe with possibilities for some, but not yet for all. Go and offer what you have felt about what is possible to those who don't yet have reason to believe it. And if these people have understood you and embraced you, then go in the confidence of that support, remembering all that it has seen you through. Go into a world where understanding is too rare, where suspicion and fear are the norms on many streets, where people are harassed and maligned because they are not understood. Go and offer what you know about the difference it makes to try to understand the experience of someone else when it is not your own experience. And if the mistakes you have made here have humbled you, then go in the gentleness of that wisdom, holding close the insight it offers into the whole human soul. Go into a world that is full of people making mistakes every day, though fewer of them will admit it than most of you now can. Go and offer your desire to do the right thing, the best thing, the good and decent thing. And go ready to learn more of forgiveness and of reconciliation. And if the work you have done here has strengthened you, then go in the vigor of that experience, treasuring all that it has taught you about home and possibilities and empathy and forgiveness. Go into a world brimful of work for you to do. Go and be restless in your experimentation in that work. Go and be playful in your engagement of that work as you have been here. Go. A word for today. A good word. Go in peace, with love, for service, in hope, and with all the beauty, grace, and hope that these years have poured into you. Go. So be it. Alleluia. Amen.
Mr. Sheriff, pray, bring these ceremonies to a close.
The 225th ceremony, commencement exercise, Williams College, is hereby terminated. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Thank you.